The question of South Moluccan independence is one of post-colonial heartbreak, unfinished promises, and historical irony. Known once as the heart of the fabled Spice Islands, the South Moluccas were thrust into a complex global narrative involving European empires, Indonesian nationalism, Cold War geopolitics, and stubborn exile communities. Today, Ambon and its neighboring islands are part of Indonesia, but the question remains, will they always be? In this extended deep dive, we'll trace how the South Moluccas came to be claimed by Indonesia, why many of its people rebelled, what became of the Republic of South Maluku, and whether independence is still possible. Spoiler alert, it's complicated. Chapter 1. Geography of Importance. The South Moluccas include Seram, Ambon, Buru, and dozens of smaller islands. Nestled between Sulawesi and Papua, these islands are part of the broader Maluku archipelago. For centuries, they were seen as the crown jewels of Southeast Asia, not because of gold or oil, but because of something far more fragrant: spices. Fun fact: nutmeg, native only to the Banda Islands in the South Moluccas, was once so valuable that in 1667, the Dutch traded Manhattan, yes, that Manhattan, to the British in exchange for the nutmeg-rich island of Run. Chapter 2. The Pre-Colonial Patchwork. Before colonization, the South Moluccas were a tapestry of cultures, languages, and small kingdoms. The most powerful sultanates, Ternate and Tidore, had influence over the spice trade and established extensive Islamic trade networks across the archipelago. Interestingly, while Islam had a strong foothold in the northern Moluccas, Christianity became dominant in the South Moluccas through later colonial missions. This religious divide would become politically significant centuries later. Chapter 3. Arrival of the Europeans. In the early 1500s, the Portuguese arrived, quickly followed by the Spanish. But by the early 1600s, the Dutch had muscled in through the Dutch East India Company, or VOC. They established brutal monopolies on clove and nutmeg by burning rival crops and even entire villages. The VOC forced farmers to sell spices only to them and at fixed prices. Any deviation from the rules meant execution or exile. This ruthless control created resentment that simmered under colonial rule for centuries. Chapter 4. The Christian Ambonese Soldiers. One of the most lasting impacts of Dutch colonization was the creation of a Christian Ambonese elite. Missionary efforts by Dutch Calvinists created a strong Christian base in the South Moluccas, and many Ambonese were recruited into the Royal Netherlands East Indies Army, or KNIL. By World War II, Ambonese troops had a reputation for loyalty and discipline. In fact, some were even deployed in Europe. This closeness to the Dutch would become both a badge of honor and a curse. Chapter 5. The Tumult of Independence. In 1945, following the end of Japanese occupation, Sukarno declared the Republic of Indonesia, but the Dutch weren't ready to let go. Over the next 4 years, they tried to establish a federal Indonesia that would keep them influential. During this period, the Dutch promised the South Moluccas a degree of autonomy, possibly even self-rule, if they remained loyal. This created high expectations among Ambonese leaders, many of whom feared being ruled by Javanese Muslims under Sukarno's centralizing agenda. Chapter 6. Declaration of the RMS. When the Dutch finally recognized Indonesian sovereignty in December 1949, the South Moluccans felt betrayed. Just months later, on the 25th of April 1950, Christian leaders declared the Republic of South Maluku, RMS, claiming independence. They established Ambon as their capital and declared Seram as part of their territory. The Indonesian military responded swiftly, landing troops and engaging in intense fighting. By November, the RMS had been defeated militarily, and its leaders either captured, killed, or exiled. Fun fact, the RMS had its own flag, national anthem, and even stamps, though they were mostly symbolic, as the state lasted just 7 months. Chapter 7. The Dutch Dilemma and the Exile. After the RMS collapse, over 12,000 South Moluccan KNIL soldiers and their families were transported to the Netherlands. They believed it would be temporary. The Dutch government even housed them in former Nazi concentration camps, grim and symbolic. This community lived in limbo. They weren't integrated, nor were they given citizenship. Instead, they waited for the RMS to rise again. Some even refused to work or learn Dutch, convinced they would soon return. Chapter 8. The RMS Government in Exile. Based in the Netherlands, the RMS Government in Exile became a symbolic anchor for the community. Over time, radical elements emerged. In the 1970s, young South Moluccan activists hijacked trains and stormed embassies to draw attention to their cause. These actions shocked the Dutch public and painted the RMS struggle in a new, darker light. The Dutch government, which once had sympathies for the cause, began distancing itself, urging the community to integrate instead. Chapter 9. Modern-day Maluku. Today, the South Moluccas are a province within Indonesia, and most people identify as Indonesian first, Malucan second. The religious mix, about 50-50 Christian and Muslim, has led to flare-ups, including deadly violence between 1999 and 2002. Ambon City saw neighborhood-level warfare. Churches and mosques were torched. Thousands died. While peace has returned, the scars remain, and so do questions about identity and autonomy. Chapter 10. Indonesia's legal stance. From Jakarta's perspective, the South Moluccas are an inseparable part of the unitary state. There is no room for negotiation, and separatism is treated harshly. The Indonesian constitution does not allow secession, and any movements toward it are quickly shut down. Chapter 11. Global recognition. No major government supports the RMS claim today. The UN recognizes Indonesia's current borders. The cause has faded from international media and diplomatic platforms. Even the Netherlands no longer formally acknowledges the RMS as a viable political project. Chapter 12. Autonomy versus independence. Indonesia has implemented regional autonomy reforms since 2001. Provinces now have more say in budgets and governance. For Maluku, this means the ability to promote its culture, language, and religion more freely. Could greater autonomy be a better path than outright independence? For many locals, it's the pragmatic choice. Chapter 13. The young generation's view. Surveys show younger South Moluccans are more integrated. They use Bahasa Indonesia, follow Jakarta-based influences, and don't feel the same longing for the RMS as their grandparents did. Even in the Netherlands, second and third generation South Moluccans are more interested in cultural preservation than political independence. Music, food, and festivals keep the heritage alive without reigniting conflict. Chapter 14. Lessons from history. The story of the South Moluccas is a microcosm of post-colonial complexity, promises made by colonial powers, hopes dashed by nation-building, identities forged in exile. The RMS may never return in a political sense, but its legacy lives on in a proud diaspora. Call to arms, outro. That's the end of this extended deep dive into the South Moluccas. From cloves to conflict, from exile to integration, this story is layered, emotional, and ongoing. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten struggles and post-colonial puzzles. Drop a comment. Should the South Moluccas be independent, or is the future best served within Indonesia? This is 10 Min Histories, where history, politics, and perspective meet. See you in the next one.